How about now?
Gotcha. You're on.
All right. So, times it now, 6:34. Technical difficulties. So, I guess I take a roll call? Is that how this works?
Yep.
All right, Rick?
You're muted, Rick. Rick's here, but he's muted.
All right, I saw Bonnie. Did I lose you guys again?
Nope, you still got us.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. Aaron? Here. Cool. Mike?
Here.
Cool. Walter?
Here.
Who else am I? Peter? Steve? Amy? I missed anyone. Tom?
You missed me.
Here. Thank you.
I certainly miss you, Tom.
And
Thank you.
Paula?
Yes, same here.
Okay, I think that's everybody. Is Sonia on? I don't think that is a no. All right. Well, does anybody want to take notes? All those hands going up? Anyone?
All right, I'll take notes.
Thank you, Walter. All right, Mike. I guess we hand it off to you.
Okay. Well, it's good to see you all after quite a while. I know a lot of you are probably zoomed out. I definitely am. But this is the way we have to go. Obviously, we're in uncharted territory right now. Things change on a daily basis. The goalposts are always moving, and we're trying to keep up with it. Currently in our planning, we're looking at a 10% cut in our general government aid. And we haven't adjusted Chapter 70 yet. The general government cut is $220,702. So that is $220,702 less than we got this fiscal year. Chapter 70 right now, we're waiting to hear what's going to happen. And we haven't done anything with Chapter 70. We're holding the governor's number. Now, if that is cut to level funded, it would mean another $72,000 cut out of the budget. If they cut Chapter 70 10%, then we have big problems because that would be 1.2 million. So hopefully that doesn't happen. We don't know where the legislators are in their budget process. They haven't even had time to deal with it. The best hope we had was a week ago. We heard 2 to 3 weeks they may come out with a local aid resolution. As far as the final budget, I don't think you're going to see the state deal with that until the end of July, maybe into August, at best case scenario. I'll show you if I can do this. I'll share my screen. So our local receipts, our estimate right now for our local receipts is about a 23% reduction from our actuals in 2019. So actually, our local receipts, that would be $1,333,049 below what we actually collected in fiscal 2019.
And is this what was sent out Thursday, Friday?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, there's been no changes. And Joe and I have been working with this information, and obviously everything is changing as we go along. So with the estimates, let me go to the next page. If I can. This was the same thing that was sent out earlier. So what we're working on is a 2.5% increase in budgets. So with what we're using to get to the 2.5% is I'm proposing to use $439,500 from stabilization, and also increasing ambulance receipts $100,000. And next Monday, I'll present the town budget with all the cuts. We're just a little below the 2.5% right now. And obviously, the last local receipts we got was March. Things were going along great. We were 700,000 ahead of estimate in our receipts for the year. And it'll be interesting to see what April shows. And obviously, we're not gonna know by June what the state budget is going to finally be. So in the fall, we'll have to make some adjustments, hopefully not large adjustments, but we will have to adjust up or down based on how the revenues come in and what the state is saying for our for Chapter 70 and general government aid.
Can I ask a question? Mike, how did you arrive at that 439,500 from stabilization?
I was trying to maintain a 2.5% increase in the budgets, and that's what was needed to do that.
Okay, thanks.
And as far as a town meeting, we don't have a date set yet. The selectmen want to wait and see what the governor says on the 18th. But the timeline, I think I gave you a timeline. If the town meeting was moved out by June 25th, just to give us something to go by.
Right.
But right now, we don't have a date. But we should keep moving forward with the process. As far as Southeastern Regional, their budget proposal came in, their total budget proposal for the whole system was about a 7.8% increase. And they came out with that budget proposal prior to everything falling apart in March. So hopefully, they said that they're already looking at it. So I will check with them and see when they'll be ready to come back to you with something.
Hey, Mike,
Yeah,
do we get reimbursed anything from Southeast Regional? Since nobody went to school there since March.
Yeah, it would be very hard for them to do remote learning. I don't know what they've been doing, to be honest. Maybe, I don't know if Joe has any idea on that.
I can tell you there is remote learning on both the academic side and the trade side that my daughter was a part of.
Okay.
I don't know how, there's a debate at any school how much quality you're getting out of this remote learning, but, they gave it an attempt. I guess I'll put it that way.
And in their proposal, they did show an increase in 10 for the number of students from Norton.
Hey, could I jump in here real quick? Could everybody identify yourself when you speak? Because I don't necessarily see your picture on the screen. So that would help me taking notes. Thanks.
Walter, did you get, it was Mike Fiore spoke and Tom DeLuca?
And Bill responded, right?
Yeah.
Yep, got it. Thank you.
So, Mike, and this is Bill. So when you say, it's going to take a week to put in all the cuts, is this just cutting back on the asks that we were shown seems like a lifetime ago, or are there actual, physical employee cuts?
No employee cuts now.
Okay.
Hoping to avoid that.
Yep.
So I'll be finalizing everything this week and I'll have it for you Monday.
Okay. And
We're trying to avoid, what happened back in 2008 when we didn't have a full-time veterans agent. We were sharing a veterans agent. We lost our town planner. And also the the Council on Aging director, lost the whole Council on Aging, period, and also the library. So hopefully we can avoid that. And right now, obviously, the segment of the population that's growing the largest is the senior population. And with what's going on, they're very vulnerable right now. So hopefully we can continue. Some good news, we're very fortunate to have Blue Star Development moving forward. Did speak with Jeff O'Neill last week from Blue Star, and the steel was going up on the largest building, and that is due to be occupied in August. And they're going to be raising the walls on the second building this week, and then they'll be coming in to permit a third building across the street. And he did say that the high bay market that he deals in, he's still getting inquiries constantly, so he's confident. So hopefully that continues.
so the first building is fully occupied or will be fully occupied by one tenant?
One tenant will take up, I think, 50% of that building. And they're due in August.
This August,
Yep,
so 2 months.
yeah.
Well, a little more than 2 months. But So
And
I know there's that ongoing debate, whether to try to push through a budget or whether to do the old 112. Is there going to be, when are we going to have that discussion?
well, once again, obviously, when the selectmen make the decision after governor's May 18th decision, then hopefully then we can set a date. I mean, my own personal opinion is I definitely want to try and have a town meeting that will just deal with the financial issues. So the numbers of people that attend will probably be down. If we can come to a consensus budget before the town meeting and get it all out there, so that we can at least get a budget in place before July 1. If we do the 1/12 budgets, Matt Wells and James Coelho, they're busy right now. They'll be busy closing out the year, and then they're going to have to work on a 1/12 budget in July, and chances are, if we do a 1/12 in July, we're going to be doing a 1/12 in August. And one of the other big concerns is if you do a 1/12 budget, you have to have the cash on hand to fund that budget. So there's a lot of different parameters that go into it, and I just hope we don't have to do that.
Will we have the cash on hand for at least July? I would hope.
Yeah, I would assume we would. The problem in July is we make a lot of the big one-time payments for the Bristol County retirement is the biggest. Plus, I know, I'll check with Catherine, I know she has loan payments that are due. The treasurer has loan payments that are due in July. So it is a big month for payments.
And has any of that been deferred like it has been on the consumer side? If you go to your local lender and say, hey, have a little problem here, could you?
Well, that won't happen with our bond payments, I can guarantee that, but,
You never know.
if it becomes an issue, hopefully, I was on the phone today with some town managers from Plymouth County, and I know they were asking Plymouth County, normally what we do is if you pay Plymouth County in a one-time payment, there's a reduction in what you have to pay.
Yeah.
And so they've asked, one of the towns had sent a letter to Plymouth County asking them, look, can you let us pay you 50% in July and then pay the second payment 6 months later and not charge us a penalty? So we could also reach out to Bristol County and see if that same option would apply. But for everyone involved, it would be a lot more functional to have a budget in place so all the departments can be ready to move on through the year.
Mike, I have a quick question on it's Rick. On the 1/12, is that something where the finance committee would have to review and approve it on a monthly basis?
I'll have to check, Rick. I don't even know if the finance committee would do that. I think it's a matter of the town accountant. Everything has to be approved by the state. So the Division of Local Services would have to approve a 1/12 budget every month.
This is James Puello, the town accountant. The Board of Selectmen will have to approve it too. Basically, we would be submitting the budget to them for approval, and then once they approve it, the town clerk will have to certify it, we'll submit it to the state, and the state will hopefully approve it.
This is Bill, I have to imagine that if any sizable portion of this Commonwealth goes to 1/12, that the state review is gonna be pretty quick.
Is that a joke?
Well,
It'll either be quick or it could be a problem if a lot of towns go to it and the state doesn't have the staff to review it, or if a number of their staff people are sick and aren't there to review the budgets. So I don't know what their process will be.
I have a follow-up, Mike. It's Rick again. This probably goes to both you and Dr. B. On anticipated turnbacks. Is that something that could benefit the months of July? It can be turned in that quick?
I think that would be more a question for James Puello. I don't know if turnbacks, if we have turnbacks, I don't think they'd be certified by the state that quick to be used in July.
I would have to close out, this is James Puello again. I have to close out the fiscal year, which usually cannot be done until late August. And free cash gets certified sometime, if we're lucky, end of August would be the soonest. Beginning of September would be the norm. Once free cash gets certified, then it would be available. But that money would be available for a town meeting, which we'll hopefully have one in October.
So coming into Q1,
July 1st, right now, what we have is about $1 million left of the free cash that was certified last year. And 600,000 of that is being used for the budget that we're working on right now. So that $1 million is what we have available right now for the first month. We can only use existing free cash that has already been certified. Some communities, the wealthier communities, have a lot of free cash. I mean, I know one or two that have over 15 million in free cash. For them, doing the 112 is much easier because all they do is they say, we have this much in free cash, we're gonna do the 112 and we're gonna use the free cash for the 112. Communities like ours, it's a little harder because we have to use other sources in order to balance the month of July expenses with the revenue.
Hey, Bill, this is Joe Ryder. Just to Rick's question or comment, I have to agree with Mike to a certain extent that the idea of setting a budget for the school department makes most sense. Number one, I have a June 1st and the June 15th deadline for notification of layoffs. So if I go to a 1/12 budget, I'm going to have to go pretty deep because I won't know what my numbers are. Versus if I have a budget at 2.5%, I know what my numbers are. I'm still going to have to make some cuts, but I'm not going to have to hopefully make cuts further unless, of course, Chapter 70 gets hit. I'll take you back to 1999, 2000, when I was a school committee member in my hometown, and we cut $800,000 in November from the school budget because we had a $1.7 million shortfall because of economic reasons to the town. This is my hometown. So we had a budget, we voted a budget, we had to come back later. It's very different now. Today, there's a discussion of further stimulus packages coming to localities, local government. So I think there's some potential benefit to having an approved budget and then having to work backwards later if we need to versus a continuation of a 1/12. My concern with the 1/12 is that most communities that have done a 1/12 in the past have been communities that are going through some type of a fiscal situation, or two, are connected to regional schools, i.e. Dayton Rehoboth, Whitman Hanson, those types of communities that call upon and they can't come to a school budget resolution and agreement. DR just went through this last year. They were on a 1/12 budget until the end of August by the Department of Revenue and Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed. So it just causes a lot of unknowns versus we know that the town side has large county payments. It's my smallest budget in terms of we know that a lot of ordering stuff we normally do is probably not going to take place this year at all, if even in October. And so therefore you're talking about custodial services and administration services in preparation for a school year that we don't even know what it's going to look like.
Yep. I guess my concern is probably twofold. One, we're trying to agree to a budget with so many of the pieces unknown at the moment that, you know, we still have to sit up there at wherever the town meeting is, saying, here's our budget. Yep, FinCom agrees to it, and you know, there are just so many unknowns. I guess the second is, you know, we can go that route as long as everybody's, you know, obviously on board with if support is a lot less than we're anticipating from the state, that, you know, we're all ready to make those cuts. And it's going to look ugly, and again, people are going to look at us going, well, why'd you approve this budget?
I mean, I can only speak for the biggest department in town that I'm going to be open in September. I just don't know what opening looks like.
Right.
So, you know, it'll probably be a lot more aggressive than it's currently been in terms of remote learning, because that's so we're looking at 4 options. Traditional opening, based on the governor's comments today, that seemed maybe 10% likely versus 1% likely. We're looking at remote learning, you know, 3.0, but with a lot more specifics. We're looking at online learning, truly online, like colleges have done, and many of you maybe have taken a course like that. And then we're looking at a staggered opening where 50% of students would be in class one day, or in the AM, like the old AM, PM kindergarten, where you'd have 50% of the kids in the morning, 50% of the kids in the afternoon, or every other day. Because the idea is that 700 kids in a high school plus 100 staff is not necessarily, you know, social distancing is going to be an issue. And they're telling us to prepare for PPEs, every student wearing a mask. Those are discussions that are taking place already. We do have some connections through MASS, my Superintendent Association, and the Principal Association, of folks involved to try to get some better answers. But I think we're easily a month away before we even know what that looks like. And it's going to depend on the stages that the governor announced today. You know, the new, if you will.
Yep.
There is, to answer Rick's comment about, or I think it was Rick's comment as well about any concept of rollbacks and all that. I want to, in my kind of general thoughts, I have 3 buckets to talk about. One is fiscal 21, one is rollbacks in fiscal 20, and the third one would be implications, at least for the school department budget, and I would say probably for the town budget as well.
Just, Bill, to answer your question, I mean, every year that when we prepare a budget, it's all based on estimates of revenue. And we do our best, and as we'll do here, we'll do our best with what we have, and it's an estimate. And, you know, that's, we look at what happened in the past, back in 2008, 2009, and we base our revenue estimates on that. And there's not much more. Every year it's the same thing. It's just based on what we feel the estimates are going to be.
This is James again. And also, if we end up doing a 112 budget, that wouldn't save us any money. We're still going to be paying police officers, firemen, everyone is going to get paid. Bills will be paid. It would be very similar as adopting a budget at town meeting as far as money going out and coming in. It's not going to have an effect. We're not going to know anything new in July that's going to change that. Once it's passed, we have to keep moving. And that's why we have the October town meeting too, to make the cuts or increase the budget at that time, depending on how the numbers come out at the end. The budget is not final until after the October town meeting. That's when we set the tax rate.
It's Rick again. What about the rainy day fund from the state? Is there any, talk about that helping the towns?
Well, there's a couple things. First of all, obviously, the state's hoping the federal government will come up with some more money to give directly to the state. And two, they will use some of the rainy day fund. And that, that's, they're hoping that some of that will help with the Chapter 70 aid. But they've obviously got a lot of expenses they've got to cover too.
Mike, can I just piggyback on that from a meeting I had earlier today? So the Student Opportunity Act, which for Norton was $72,000 increase, which is what Mike said earlier about the level funded losing that 70, that's called the Student Opportunity Act. So that's a significant millions upon millions of dollars to some districts. We have a local district in the area that's getting 11 million as an increase. There's a lot of discussion that that's going to be rolled back. The concern that I have is I don't necessarily see an impact from Chapter 70 to communities like Norton because we're already on what's called held harmless. We're already getting the most minimal or the highest minimal increase you can get as a community. In other words, we're at the bottom of the pile when it comes to the state giving you more money. So what we're hearing is that they're going to try to hold harmless every community, meaning X number of students times X number of dollars for everybody. Right now we're getting 30. I don't see that going up. Maybe it'll even go down. Maybe they'll say a few years ago, if you remember in 08, it was $10 a student that they gave to every single district unless you are increasing enrollment, which there are very few, only the cities do that. So that's part number one. And part number two is Mike and I have had some sidebars, and Matt and James, we're more worried about fiscal 22. And I won't speak for them, but I'm more worried about fiscal 22 because of how much money, Rick, that could be used in the rainy day account if in fact the feds don't come through with probably in the vicinity of $3 to $4 trillion nationally in order to hold us all harmless. And as we all know, they just print money. We can't do that. We have to level our budget, which is the role of finance committee.
There's only so many trillions they can print. Dr. B, did you ever get an answer on that email you had sent out to the representative regarding the June 1st, June 15th notification dates?
Yeah, so I followed up with Senator Feeney, who said he'd put his feelers out, and then I also followed up with representatives from my hometown where I live, where I, to be quite honest, have had some connections through the years. There just isn't any love for doing it. They're just, and I think one of the feelings is they're really putting the pressure on Kennedy, or I should say the House and the Senate colleagues to get more money. The House is controlled by the Dems. As you know, the Republicans control the Senate in DC. So they're hoping that that's where money is. So no, I did not. So the June 15th is wouldn't get a lot of love from probably most of the union employees, because that's something that they had a bargain for years and years ago, or had a kind of deal with years and years ago when I was a teacher, because it used to be no date.
Well,
yeah, there was no date. You had to be notified by June 30th or your last day of school, whichever came first. It just happens that this year we're June 15th and we're also attached to the same date for the state debt.
okay. Does anybody on FinCom have any other questions? All right then. So the school budget, is that going to be revised? Since
Yes.
Since you never really had the opportunity to present your budget.
Yes, so if we take the handout that you originally got, which is, I'm just trying to read it now, probably around 60 or 70 pages, You're probably gonna get one now, because there's gonna be a lot of zeros on a lot of pages.
You did a
But
good
what we're-
job on that though, Matt.
What we're hoping to do, Bill, and to the members, is two parts. If I could just speak about 3 buckets, because I think it's really important to have that mindset, and then I'll talk, and bucket number 1 will address the major issue, which is finance. So in 2 weeks' time, Mike and I met, James met, and with Matt, we met over the phone once as well. We went from, it looks like it's gonna be 3%, we're gonna be okay, to all of a sudden 2.5. So what we're working at is, in fact, the numbers are changing. If local aid maintains its 10% and not a 20% cut, then we're okay. If it's another 10% on your side, or Chapter 70 goes down by 10%, that's 1.2 million directly. So that's pretty devastating. Yeah, what we're working off of right now is about a $740,000 increase to the school budget, 740 from the original request of 2.3 million. So that had everything in it. So we're backing off of that, and then I have to consider the town meeting date, because it's definitely going to be after June 15th. So I have to make determinations for the paraprofessionals union. It's June 1st. For all other unions, including the teachers, it's June 15th, and all non-union personnel, it's June 15th. Then I have the mandates. So we'll continue to have those in our budget because I have to fulfill those, and I do have an implication with that, and that is, I think, Bill, you made a comment that, this isn't, everybody's trying their best at remote learning and doing what we can, but we already see students not showing up, not participating. Yep. And we have concerns about providing special education services online and all of that stuff. So I think there's going to be some financial implications with that, as well as how do we better provide those services. Like I said earlier, we're looking at 4, 1 traditional opening and 3, if you will, different openings, remote learning at another level, online learning for certain grades, and then the staggered learning, which I think that's where we're probably going to be, is more of a staggered learning, or we're going to be spending a lot of money on PPEs with coming back with hundreds of kids and employees. The second bucket, and by the way, I'm noting that non-union personnel are taking a 0% increase, even though some of them have contracts, including myself, taking 0%, and negotiations with other unions are still taking place. Good faith bargaining, as typically happens, because the contracts aren't settled. The second bucket is the rollbacks question. We have 2 major issues. Matt has been diligent in working on our transportation issue. We have 2 major transportation contracts. One is van pool, which is done through 13 communities via BICO, the collaborative that we belong. About, if I'm wrong, a little over 200,000 from March to June, something in that ballpark, give or take. BICO voted, I voted against. BICO voted to pay that company for its contract services from March 16th through the remainder of the year, which is June 30th, even though they're not providing me a direct service, which I believe both Matt and James continuously would tell me that under Chapter 5146.
4156.
All right, 4156. I almost got it. I'm going to write that one now, 4156.
Matt was ready with that answer so fast.
He knew that I was going to screw it up. So under 4156, we're not supposed to pay a third-party vendor if they're not providing us a direct service, which is what we've been doing, all along, if you will. That's a major issue, because what I was hoping to do is to Rick's comment, to roll back that money and be able to say, well, there's some transportation money that we saved in special ed that we could toss back into special ed and not have to cost the budget, if you will, or positions even in either situation. The other one is Bloom, which is our general education, if you will, in town transportation. Again, that's a service delivery that's not being provided. We're trying to come up. It's ourselves, Dayton, Rehoboth, Taunton, Attleboro, and Norton that work predominantly with Bloom. There's others, but we're trying to come up with some type of a plan Right now, that 4156 law says that we're not supposed to be paying it. However, the Senate has approved, and the House will probably then approve, a new bill which says that we can pay the vendors if we so choose at the local level. So that's going to have to be a discussion that I really want to have with the school committee, with James as the town accountant, with Mike and myself and Matt, because again, that could have a difference. Now, those bus drivers have been mostly unemployed and are collecting for Bloom, versus Vanpool continues to pay their employees. And Vanpool is now over 3,000 employees, so following into the federal guidelines of under 500 employees, they don't fulfill that. So a formula to pay them 78 cents on the dollar was voted on at the BICO board, and Uxbridge, Norton, Easton, and I'm missing one, it escapes from now, voted no, and all the other communities voted yes. The question is it binding to Norton? I'm not being provided a service. If we don't decide to go that route, can we actually save those money? But that's a big issue for two reasons. One, on July 1st, I believe that contract, even though amended, on July 1st, we go back to the original contract, which means I'm continuing to get my service, even though I didn't pay for not getting a service from March to June. It would save the town, and then the school budget, a lot of money via free cash in that whole process. With Bloom, I have a contract again that is we're in the first year of a 5-year. So again, I would say, services aren't being provided, so that's on the private industry. I'm not sure that the taxpayers' dollars should be paying for that same idea I have with VAMP. So I continue to work on those two major issues. The second issue that goes with that is refunding. We have a number of line items: preschool, athletics, transportation, that all are going to be getting refunded because I've received money for a service and I'm not providing the service. So I have to think about literally doing potential line item changes with the school committee to fund that within our current fiscal budget savings. So that potentially has a throwback on our budget rollback. And then third, line items that are currently paid through fees, i.e. rental property. If you'd be mindful for a second, we have rental of our property, specifically the before and after school program with Champions, where we get a dollar cut for use of facilities, which was a bid process that we did. We're now currently getting zero because there's no service being delivered to children from Champions. Therefore, I don't have a right to charge them for that. So that's a concern because we have some positions in the custodial department in that. And we also, if you recall, we don't typically come back for a lot of money for those $5,000 and $10,000 items of fixing things throughout the year because we use that account because it's a facilities revolving account purpose. The third bucket is the implications bucket, which is the scenarios that we've been talking about, and each of those has cost issues. For example, if you go to online learning, there's going to be a cost with that versus remote learning. And even a staggered learning might have costs. So I've asked Mike to reconsider the capital improvement plan, which I'll file with him tomorrow, that basically allows for us to take the one-to-one that we have currently under school choice full payment for 3 to 12, and to actually get technology for kindergarten, first grade, and second grade, which is the only 3 grades where we don't have the one-to-one technology right now, and put that into our capital plan and eliminate the financial equivalent of other items we were going to go for in the capital plan and were previously approved. The third implication of that is how much money do we want to spend going forward every year during potentially 2 very big fiscal years. And this is a school department question. How much do we want to really spend on capital every year besides what we really need, regardless of what that means, because we always put some good money into capital every year. And then the last is the one I can never control, which is the one that we always have an issue with, which is what is the impact of special education during this time of remote learning? Will there be any? And what is the impact on the future if I have to plan for something different for September? My biggest concern is not within the inclusion setting, although there's some issues there. It's occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy. Those are three major areas. Counseling, how do you counsel? I have some serious concerns about counseling and online. Testing of students that are going for an IEP is currently not taking place. There are some, if you're in Alaska, they've been doing it for a long time, but if you're out here, the attorneys are just waiting for it to happen before there's questions of validity and all of that stuff in service delivery, which has a direct cost to our budget, as you all know. So that's the implications bucket. So we have a number. We're going to continue to try to put together a number that gets us to a point of saying we can open, if you will, with this. What is offset, if anything? What can hopefully we have in rollbacks that has some sufficient support from the towns and schools? And then lastly, the implications that right now it's just too early for me to give you because I don't really know if we're going to be given the go-ahead for what type of an opening in September. Oh, and by the way, and we're planning for face-to-face or remote learning or staggered learning for our summer school program for special needs students, because those are students that have the extended school year program that I mandated to provide services, which costs us about $70,000 to $90,000 every summer.
Well, I just want to put Walter at ease. This is being recorded, so.
Sorry.
Trying to keep up, yeah, but thanks.
So if you don't pay the money on the busing, can they come back and say we violated the contract?
Yeah, those are questions that we're putting up to our legal team. So that's the reason why it's a complicated issue because so we belong to a collaborative. We belong to two of them.
Yeah.
But as you know, providing transportation to 45 students that go out of district is a lot of singleton situations that go to singleton schools. So what happens is they're able to work that. So this company is actually, to be quite honest, they've been very good. I don't have any complaints. They grew a little big last year, which caused us some headaches. Most of it because they grew too fast and they couldn't find the drivers. The rationale behind all of this is the drivers are going to leave. They're going to go work for someone else. My argument is, who's hiring?
Where are they going to go?
Where are they going? And I don't mean that as a lack of respect for a driver,
Right.
Regardless if it's general ed or special ed. They are needed where they're at the forefront. We have to have them. So again, but I argue that if they're collecting unemployment, by the way, if they are collecting unemployment right now, they're getting more because they're also getting the $600 a week, which is I think for 8 weeks or something like that. So they're actually getting potentially more money. And again, it's not a knock on them. They deserve their money and they're very important to us. But that method of thinking that we should pay a third party for lack of a service is something I have a problem with.
Yeah, yeah. And in your 4 scenarios of opening up, isn't the thought process behind the kind of staggering, half the people show up at a certain time?
Right.
It's more like half the student body does week 1, and then you get the weekend to clean the school, and then the other half does week 2.
Yeah, so
how do you clean if you're doing it morning and afternoon?
well, those are all the questions that we still have to answer. Correct. We don't know. I think what's going to happen is I think you're going to see if it's still at this level that we're at right now, or it's coming down and getting better, but people are really worried. First of all, as a parent, I know that people are worried about there's no vaccine and sending kids to go. So we're going to have to deal with that issue. There's the issue of how many kids belong to, how do you clean the building? I think what you're going to see is a combination of things like half the class comes in on Monday, the other half comes in on Tuesday. You're staggering them, and you have remote learning and all kinds of other things taking place at the same time. And then that gives you a night crew time to clean the building for the next day, which means I'll probably have to look at things like shifting personnel in that case. But it's concerning. It's very concerning. And as you know, as all of you know, this is not anything that's done for free.
Nothing in life is free. Mike?
Yeah.
I don't know, what else can we, what else was on the agenda?
I think that was really it, just to get the discussion going again. And, then next week we'll start presenting the budgets.
Okay. So the governor does his thing, if today is the 11th, next Monday. When does the selectmen meet? Like the following Thursday? Like 3 days after?
That they meet this Thursday, so they'll have to make that decision this Thursday. They normally meet every other Thursday, but they might have a meeting
Okay,
that week.
okay. Thought there was something else. I don't know, does anybody else on FinCom have questions, comments, concerns? Silence is definite.
Bill,
Yes?
it sounds like we're basically kind of where we were a week ago, right? We're just waiting for the Board of Selectmen to make their decision as to whether we're going to go with a 1/12 or a full budget, when we're going to try to have town meeting. And once they make that call, then we can start to talk about, we can start to, look at, what they put in front of us, but seems like, no new developments.
Right. But I guess,
Understandably.
yeah, but I guess we need to keep the process moving. So we'd be meeting again prior to the selectmen, meeting and deciding what their date is.
And what sort of budget? I'm assuming that, this is going to end up being, it sounds like everybody's preference, Mr. Units, yes, is that we go for a full budget. It seems like everybody universally wants to avoid a 1/12. So, if the governor tells us on the 18th that's plausible, it looks like that's what we're doing.
Hey, Bill, may I, just a comment to Aaron from the school side only perspective, if I may. I don't think on the 18th we're going to get an actual information about the budget. I think what's happening right now, Mike, you can tell me I'm different, but what I'm hearing on the school side, and I think, Mike, you said this too, is that the House, the Senate, and the governor are all trying to come out with one budget. They're in the back room once they can and come out with, since they'd already done all the work prior, now it's about going back and saying, what are we saving and not saving, and what can we put off?
Or at least, as far as the state, at least coming out with a local aid number.
Right.
Right, I understand we're not gonna have that, right, but we should have an idea as to whether or not we can have a town meeting.
Well,
We'll hopefully have a better idea as to whether or not we can have a town meeting.
Yeah, which stage of opening does a town meeting fall under?
well, as Lauren Goldberg said when we had the joint meeting, you can have a town meeting. You don't come under the 10-person assembly.
Right.
So town meetings can happen. It's just a matter of the board deciding if they want to move forward and how.
Yep.
Well, at least in my 7, now going on 8 years of preparing a budget, there's, I think, been one contentious budget cycle, and then everything has to do with an article that's not related to money. It's i.e. something to do with, planning and that type of stuff. Those have been some of the longest meetings. And my concern is that's a town meeting form of government, of which I've been a rep to as well, so I support it. But this is one of these hiccups that we have in terms of, we've never had a pandemic stop a town meeting before.
True.
Deep Thoughts by Joe Byetta. I'm an author now.
Well, all right then.
So Bill, do you want to wait a week and see what the board decides, or do you want to keep going with the budget process?
I myself, I guess, would move forward with the process irregardless. Well, I guess I would move forward with the process assuming at this point in time that there'll be a meeting prior to June 30th. Though, I've already lobbied some of the selectmen that, I'm the one pushing for the outdoor meeting because I'm not thrilled about sitting inside a building with 300 people. But anyways, so I would be pushing to keep the process going and then if in 2 weeks the selectmen say, yeah, we're not doing this until August.
Yeah.
Then
And maybe, Bill, if I could, maybe Tom DeLuca would remember, I'm sure there's some members on the committee that would remember. When I first came here, we'd have town meetings where like 60 people would show up and we'd be done in 45 minutes.
oh yeah, I've been
Basically, if it's just dealing with the budget, you don't get a lot of, so I don't think, if you're in the gym and you have 60 people, you'd be spread out pretty good.
I guess we'll see how much interest there is.
Yeah.
I don't know why people don't find the financial matters interesting.
I see that to Matt Wells every day.
Oh.
Well, I guess I run it out to the committee members one last time. Are there any other comments or questions? And if not, then we'll have one vote tonight.
I have a question. This is Bonnie. Which, on the last page of the materials that we were sent, are all the articles? So which would be included and which would be excluded if we only talked about financial issues?
Yep. Let me get the list one.
That's the list where some are pink, some are like yellowish.
So if you look at that, Chapter 90, obviously you'd vote on Chapter 90 to accept the Chapter 90 money from the state. You have to vote on the operating budget, the sewer enterprise budget, the water enterprise budget, capital plan. The ones that are colored in, well, you'd want to vote on the pilot because that'll bring in money. And the ones that are all colored in green would be more or less ones that you could wait on. Or
So I'm seeing 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29.
right.
So still about 10-ish articles.
Yeah. in one of the articles, prior year bills, that would come off. If you do a special, it could be in a special. But still would be addressing it, so.
Okay.
And as far as capital, usually in the spring, the capital is smaller because we deal with mostly payments that have to be made and items that have to be purchased for the October town meetings, so.
Okay. All right, if there are no other comments, then we would need a motion to adjourn until next Monday, same time, Mike?
Sounds good to me.
I moved. This is Michael Fiore.
Mr. Chairman, Tom DeLuca, second.
The motion and a second to adjourn. And get this straight. Wick,
Yes,
is that a yes to the motion?
adjourn.
Okay.
That's it, yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Bonnie,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Did I miss anybody?
Walter.
Walter, sorry about that.
Sure, you make them take the minutes.
Then we can get them.
That's it, I quit. Take your own notes.
Sorry, Walter.
Yeah, I'm a yes. I'm gonna go with yes on that one.
Well, thank you all, and I guess we'll talk next Monday.